Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Martian, for your usual over-the-top introduction of another guy from Belfast. When I received this invitation, my first instinct was to say yes, simply because, on a selfish basis, it allows me to return to my hometown of Belfast, albeit virtually this year, but obviously physically next year and the year after. Secondly, because the company I represent, the European Connected Health Alliance, was actually established there 10 years ago. It was established by me out of a sense of frustration and anger, actually, because everywhere I went in the world, I met people, I met, frankly, really smart people who had the most wonderful innovations, the most wonderful ideas, but lived a very frustrated life because they could not get access to others in the many silos that are being created in the health care and well-being space. I decided to do something about that, which a friend of mine, he's still a friend of mine, did say to me, "You're crazy." I sometimes wonder, that maybe being crazy is a good thing. You can think about it. What he meant by that was, at that time, the ECH Alliance consisted of me. But I determined at the beginning we were not going to be only a Northern Ireland entity. We were going to be, at the least, a European entity, because we cannot sit in any silo anywhere. I do not like silos, as you probably have worked out already. So what we have done is we have created what is now a global organization. And thinking back to the speaker just before I started to speak, and I listened very carefully to some of the lessons and some of the challenges in that, and some of the examples of successes. I want to use this last 10 years of experience to tell you of some of our successes and failures, not so much to promote our own organization, but to perhaps explain to you some of the lessons we have learned. First, there is no difficulty about innovation. I was asked recently at a conference, do you think we will be able to innovate our way out of this? And I smiled because even in the current pandemic, think about what has been achieved. Think about the people who spoke recently about the vaccines. Not only the scientists and the geniuses who produced those, but let's give a thought to the regulators. It used to take 10, 15 years to do what they have done in less than a year. Look at the people who currently today are using telehealth to talk to their doctor and other people. I know from experience that same technology of telehealth has existed for 10 or 15 years. It's only come to the fore and is only being used extensively across the world now because of the pandemic. The second thing I realized, of course, and have experienced is you need all the pieces of the puzzle. We call them ecosystems, which are permanent, because that allows you to build relationships. Second, they have to be multi-stakeholder. Multi-stakeholder includes all the players in an ecosystem: national governments, regional governments, council organizations, all the health systems, whether they be publicly funded or whether they be insurance-led. You have to bring in industry, both from a startup point of view, right through the global players. You have to as well bring in patients. And I know that sounds so obvious, everybody goes, yes, yes, yes. But reality, my experience is, patients are often excluded until it's too late. The number of patient groups that we represent who have said that they know nothing about the latest inventions or the latest solutions which they're asked to buy, the first time they hear of them is when they're asked to buy something. They're never included in the co-creation. So what we do is we bring together innovators, entrepreneurs. We bring together actual real patients. And we say to the innovators and entrepreneurs, don't talk for the first 30 minutes, just listen. And when they listen to the activities of daily living, when they listen to the needs, the real needs of these patients, they can then design and produce solutions for those patients. We also bring in a very important part, which is the economic development agencies. From my personal experience in Northern Ireland with InvestNI, for example, they recognised many years ago that they should be in partnership with the local Department of Health. Up to then, the attitude towards health budgets, not just in Northern Ireland, but many, many other places, was exactly that. Oh, health is a burden. We can't afford any more. This is absolute nonsense, because the way to look at health and care budgets is this. These are economic engines for growth. Who are the biggest purchasers of almost anything in any of our systems? Health and social care departments. Who spends the most money? Who buys the most things? Who employs the most people? These are, if they were a company, if you look at them as a company, they would be treated as gods in the sense of delivering on our economic benefits and growth. Look around the world. This is true all over the world. It's one of the biggest industries in the world of health, care, well-being, pharma, tech. What we discovered over the last 10 years is the thing that was missing and is missing is the ability to connect the dots, to actually say to each of those players I've just mentioned and many others, and say, why don't you talk to, why don't you actually listen to other people? You have to listen to the need. You have to understand the need before you can start trying to innovate, create a solution. Technology is incredible. I have no concerns at all about the ability of the innovators in the tech world to produce solutions. What I do have a worry about, a continuing worry about, is the inability of institutions and organizations, particularly place governments, to actually grasp and understand that they are not everything. They are part of an overall ecosystem. They have responsibilities, and they can fulfill those responsibilities to their citizens and so on by embracing external, whether it's business, innovators, whether it's social impact organizations, etc. So our role in the world, as you'll hear during the day, was literally to connect the dots, to actually make sure people listen to each other. So to do that, we created a series of ecosystems, something like 65 ecosystems across the world now, where they gather on a regular basis, either virtually or physically, where they understand each other's problems, and I keep saying, listen to each other. And as a result, we transfer that knowledge of success and failure across our network. That is why during the pandemic, we have such a huge surge in growth in membership, number of meetings, probably 200 meetings a year in Europe alone. And what is the outcome? What's the point? The point is our role has to be, and we all have this responsibility, to actually improve care, improve the well-being, improve the life of every citizen. It's a huge goal. You think, oh, but don't take the attitude, oh, it's too big, I can't do anything about that. As the last speaker said, we each should select a few areas that we can personally and organizationally contribute to and help solve some of the problems. It can be done. We are doing it. We intend to go on doing it. And what I would say is you listen to the speakers I'm about to introduce, and you think of all of those minds which are focused on making sure that we all as human beings live a better life, a calmer life from a mental health perspective, but above all, to help those who perhaps need help more than we do. Final thing I'll say to you is this: we should look around the world. We have to look around the world. We have expanded globally during this pandemic because of the pandemic to like-minded organizations. What is fascinating for me is the lessons I have learned, the knowledge I've gained from talking to our friends in Africa. There they do what they call frugal innovation. They can produce innovation there, which would cost us in the West, the developed countries, as they call us sometimes, for a fraction of what it costs us. They don't have the obstacles. They don't have the inherent obstacles and difficulties of accessing customers and people. We should learn lessons around the world, but don't just learn the lesson. Don't just plan. I prefer to do and plan in parallel. And I'll leave you with this thought. 10 years ago when I started this and being told I was crazy, We don't look so crazy now when you look at the map behind me. We don't look so crazy now when you listen to the people we've assembled today. This is our contribution to the overall picture. But today, I want to say to you, each of you have a responsibility. Each of you have an opportunity, and it's exciting. So I'll finish with that and say thank you again to the organisers for having the initiative, the courage to put this event on this year. I look forward to being back next year in Belfast and stand in those famous stairs, if you'll let me do that, and to work with Martin Conlon and the team to make sure that we all, with MIT, work together to make a better world. Don't let that just be, oh yeah, we all say that, don't we? Let's do something about it ourselves. So I think my next happy role is to introduce you to the first phase of our health track today. And that is to introduce to you my colleague and friend, Blethen Rees, who's the Deputy Chairman of the ECH Alliance, but also the Chair of the Digital Health Society, which we have created in conjunction with some of the leading governments in Europe, including the Estonian, Finnish, and other governments, to look at what do we do about data? How can we use it to oil the wheels of innovation and invention, and above all, of care? Thank you very much indeed for listening.